everybody. Everybody's been doing well, keeping safe, social distancing, using a mask. If you choose not to, certainly social distance. If you choose not to do that, then people choose. I mean, the choice is yours. Free will choice, always, everything. But there are consequences to our choices. So if something bad happens out of that choice, remember you have to take ownership of it. Hopefully nothing bad will come of it. We're going to start with Daniel, which 12 chapters. 12 chapters, excuse me. Going to take 4 or 5 videos probably for this. Then next posting, this was being posted along with a hidden message in the Bible, which I got yesterday, and followed by the completion of a new message. And I've been working on this, trying to translate this very ancient word, we're guessing that it's pre-Aramaic. A lot of that stuff was Aramaic was language of the Aramaeans, which came out of uh, Mesopotamia, Babylon, before Moses, or after Moses. So it could be as old as Moses' time, could be older Abraham's time. There were a lot of dialects. There could be subtle changes, a letter here and there. So, but it's sounding like it's part of an honorific. Shah, She, Lakum, She Alakum, Adonai, which we know is not Aramaic, which means Lord, followed by peace of Christ, ne'er deny or ne'er to die. So I'm seeming like it's part of an honorific acknowledgement to God. So we're still working on that. And I was just happened to notice, come across, looking up at Moses, interesting fact that Moses, by today's standards, was born out of incest. His mother, Jochebed, how it looks to be pronounced, married his father, Amram, and she was also his aunt, Amram's aunt. So a lot of things went on back then. Of course, Lot had children by his daughters after his wife was gone. And Noah, supposedly had 3 sons on the ship with him, and only 2 of them had daughters, and the third one did not. So where his sons come from? Adam and Eve, they had 3 sons. Where their children, where the other children come from? So, and others had multiple wives later on. Jacob, multiple wives. Isaac, multiple wives, concubines. So the practice went on. So by today's standards, it's sinful evil. Is it still sinful evil in God's standards? Who knows? So just the reason I say this is to be careful how we judge, I guess. A lot of things out there today are man-made rules and laws, not necessarily God's rules and laws. So, then again, God may have changed it, realizing it was a necessary thing to propagate the world. So, anyways, get off track. This is about Daniel. And the lead-in, the preface for this. Again, I like this Bible because it gives preface, explains what's going on at the time. The Book of Daniel combines 2 types of literature, court narrative and apocalypse. The opening narrative section presents 6 stories of how God protected and promoted 4 young men who were taken into exile in Babylon. When Daniel and his friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego demonstrate their faithfulness to God, they are delivered from deadly perils by God's mighty acts. You know how they let Daniel in the lion's den, and the 3 brothers those 3 friends placed in the fire and weren't touched. Daniel was given the ability to interpret dreams, earning him a valued place in the royal court of Babylon and later in the Persian Empire. The second part of the book describes visions and messages Daniel received from God through angelic messengers, which is all my messages come through angelic messengers. These visions are presented in the cryptic language and symbolic terms typical of apocalyptic literature. Again, very cryptic, symbolic. Within them, we see the outlines of Near Eastern history, the empires of Babylon and Persia, conquest of Alexander the Great, and the ongoing strife between the Ptolemies in Egypt and the Seleucids in Syria. The visions anticipate an arrogant ruler, the Seleucid emperor Antiochus IV Epiphanes, who desecrated the Jerusalem temple in 167 BC. This led to the Maccabean revolt, which restored the nation's independence and preserved the worship of Israel's God. The visions in Daniel can also be understood to reveal the conditions at the end of the present age, showing it to be a time of definitive conflict between God's people and their enemies. The people of God will be sustained through their persecutions, knowing they will receive the kingdom of God. Okay, 1. In the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Jehoiakim, that's one of the evil ones or not. There was a father and a son. One of them I sent to the light, as directed by the Mother Mary. One of the times she came to me when he was praying and he was trying to interfere with something. And it's the name that given to me. I don't know if it came to me or was given to me by her. She came, she appeared, felt her presence and heard her voice, and she summoned him to her side because he was powerless to his authority over all from God, through God. And she was speaking to him. I couldn't hear what she was saying to him. Then she called me forth. I crawled over to her, knelt by their side, and she said to me, I'll send him to the light. So she did something to change him, and instructed me to send him to the light. Because that is one of my responsibilities, along again with tens of thousands of others around the world. So I don't know if this is the same one or not. In the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, that's how I pronounce it, Jehoiakim, I think his son was Chim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord delivered Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hands, along with some of the articles from the temple of God. These he carried off to the temple of his God in Babylonia, and put in the treasure house of his God. So here we have one of the beginning of the Hebrews in exile. Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, chief of his court officials, to bring into the king's service some of the Israelites from the royal family and the nobility, young men without any physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace. So he's enslaving them. He was to teach them the language and literature of the Babylonians. The king assigned them a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table. They were to be trained for 3 years, and after that they were to enter the king's service. Among those who were chosen were some from Judah: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The chief official gave them new names: to Daniel the name Belteshazzar, to Hananiah Shadrach, to Mishael Meshach, to Azariah Abednego. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine, and he asked the chief official permission not to defile himself this way. Now God had caused the official to show favor and compassion to Daniel. God can influence, and the devil influences as well others, just like ventriloquist, like puppet master, to influence us, to affect us, to communicate to us. But the official told Daniel, I'm afraid of my lord the king who has assigned your food and drink. Why should he see you looking worse than the other young men your age? The king would then have my head because of you. Daniel then said to the guard, whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with what you see. So he agreed to do this and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine and they were to drink, and gave them vegetables instead. To these 4 young men, God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning, and Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds. So they were given gifts by God. So God caused this to happen, the exile. God caused the king, the emperor, to choose these 4 men, and God gave them unto them wisdom and knowledge and learning. And then, of course, Daniel, the visions and dream interpretation. At the end of the time set by the king to bring them into his service, the chief official presented them to Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them, and he found none equal to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's service. In every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king questioned them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in his whole kingdom. And Daniel remained there until the first year of King Cyrus. In the second year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His mind was troubled and he could not sleep. So the king summoned the magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers to tell him what he had dreamed. When they came in and stood before the king, he said to them, "I have had a dream that troubles me, and I want to know what it means." Sure, everybody's heard this story before. Then the astrologers answered the king, "May the king live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will interpret it." Keep in mind, a lot of these people were proselytizers. The king replied to the astrologers, "This is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I will have you cut into pieces and your houses turned into piles of rubble. But if you tell me the dream and explain it, you will receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. So tell me the dream and interpret it for me." A lot of pressure. Once more they replied, "Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will interpret it." Then the king answered, "I am certain that you are trying to gain time, because you just realize that this is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me the dream, there is only one penalty for you. You have conspired to tell me misleading and wicked things, hoping the situation will change. So then, tell me the dream, and I will know that you can interpret it for me." The astrologers answered the king, "There is no one on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer. What the king asks is too difficult. No one can reveal it to the king except the gods, and they do not live among humans." This made the king so angry and furious that he ordered the execution of all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree was issued to put the wise men to death, and men were sent to look for Daniel and his friends to put them to death. When Arioch, commander of the king's guard, had gone out to put to death the wise men of Babylon, Daniel spoke to him with wisdom and tact. He asked the king's officer, "Why did the king issue such a harsh decree?" Arioch then explained the matter to Daniel. At this, Daniel went in to the king and asked for time, so that he might interpret the dream for him. Then Daniel returned to his house and explained the matter to his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. He urged them to plead for mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that he and his friends might not be executed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. During the night, the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven and said, "Praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. He changes times and seasons. He deposes kings and raises up others. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness, and light dwells within him. I thank and praise you, God of my ancestors. You have given me wisdom and power. You have made known to me what we asked of you. You have made known to us the dream of the king." And these are the type of things you ask for. This is seek, ask, knock. Those spiritual things of value, spiritual value, good for yourself, not things of this world. Then Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to execute the wise men of Babylon, and said to him, "Do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the king, and I will interpret his dream for him." Arioch took Daniel to the king at once and said, "I have found a man among the exiles from Judah who can tell the king what his dream means." The king asked Daniel, also called Belteshazzar, "Are you able to tell me what I saw in my dream and interpret it?" Daniel replied, "No wise man, enchanter, magician, or diviner can explain to the king the mystery he has asked about, but there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. He has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in days to come. Your dream and the visions that passed through your mind as you were lying in bed are these." So he didn't even know what they were. God told him, "As your majesty was lying there, your mind turned to things to come, and the revealer of mysteries showed you what is going to happen. As for me, this mystery has been revealed to me, not because I have greater wisdom than anyone else alive, but so that your majesty may know the interpretation, and that you may understand what went through your mind." So God gave it to Nebuchadnezzar. God knew how Nebuchadnezzar was going to react. God knew that he would execute, was threatened to execute everybody, including Daniel and his friends. And God already had given Daniel the gift of divination, of dream interpretation, and of visions. So God caused all these things to happen. As to me, this mystery has been revealed to me not because I've read it, but so that your best majesty know that it went through your mind. Okay. Your majesty looked, and there before you stood a large statue. An enormous, dazzling statue, awesome in appearance. The head of the statue was made of pure gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of baked clay. While you were watching, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and smashed them. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were all broken to pieces and became like chaff on a threshing floor in the summer. So the legs or the foundation of this mighty thing with damage destroyed, causing everything to fall down. I can see that. It's going to be talking about the future of his country, possibly. Chaff on a threshing floor in the summer. The wind swept them away without leaving a trace. But the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth. So something or someone's going to destroy his kingdom, is what it sounds like. This was the dream, and now we will interpret to the king. Your Majesty, you are the King of Kings. The God of heaven has given you dominion and power and might and glory. In your hands he has placed all mankind and the beasts of the field and the birds in the sky. Wherever they live, he has made you ruler over them all. You are that head of gold. After you, another kingdom will arise, inferior to yours. Next, a third kingdom, one of bronze, will rule over the whole earth. Finally, there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything. And as iron breaks things to pieces, so it will crush and break all the others. Just as you saw that the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom. Yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, even as you saw iron mixed with clay. As the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture, will not remain united, any more than iron mixes with clay. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out of a mountain, but not by human hands, a rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. What is that rock? Who is that rock? Jesus. The great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. The dream is true and its interpretation is trustworthy. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell prostrate before Daniel, paid him honor, and ordered that an offering and incense be presented to him. The king said to Daniel, "Surely your God is the God of gods, and the Lord of kings, and the revealer of mysteries, for you were able to reveal this mystery." Then the king placed Daniel in a high position and lavished many gifts on him. He made him ruler over the entire province of Babylon and placed him in charge of all its wise men. Moreover, at Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego administrators over the province of Babylon, while Daniel himself remained at the royal court. King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide and set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. He then summoned the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the other provincial governors to come to the dedication of the image he had set up. So the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the other provincial officials assembled for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up, and they stood before it. Then the herald loudly proclaimed, "The nations and peoples of every language, this is what you are commanded to do. As soon as you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace." Therefore, as soon as they heard the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, and all kinds of music, all the nations and peoples of every language fell down and worshipped the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. God doesn't want an image of gold, so he's kind of reacting in an appropriate way. At this time, some astrologers came forward and denounced the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "May the king live forever. Your Majesty has issued a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music must fall down and worship the image of gold, and that whoever does not fall down and worship will be thrown into a blazing furnace. But there are some Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who pay no attention to you, Your Majesty. They neither serve your gods nor worship the image of gold you have set up, nor would they." So he's wrong to set up that image of gold. That's idolatry. He kind of overreacted to this dream interpretation and wanted to build that image that he saw. Furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And it's funny how these astrologers whose lives Daniel saved, immediately turning around against them. Jealousy for losing their power in place in the court. Furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king, and Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of gold I have set up? Now when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship it, you will be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. Then God will be able to rescue you from my hand." Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, "King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar was furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and his attitude toward them changed. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual, and commanded some of the strongest soldiers in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. So these men, wearing their robes, trousers, turbans, and other clothes, were bound and thrown into the blazing furnace. The king's command was so urgent, and the furnace so hot, that the flames of the fire killed the soldiers who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, firmly tied, fell into the blazing furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet in amazement, and asked his advisers, "Weren't there 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire?" They replied, "Certainly, your majesty." He said, "Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods." And it's most likely Jesus, the Christ, or an angel, Michael, Gabriel. Nebuchadnezzar then approached the opening of the blazing furnace, and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire, and the satraps, prefects, governors, and royal advisers crowded around them. They saw that the fire had not harmed their bodies, nor was a hair of their heads singed. Their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, "Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants. They trusted in him and defied the king's command, and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces, and their houses be turned into piles of rubble. For no other God can save in this way." Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. That's 3 chapters. So it's a story everybody knows. So their faith saved them. Their belief, they didn't necessarily believe that God would save them. They didn't believe that He would not save them. They believe that they place themselves in God's hand. No matter what happens, if He saves us, if He doesn't save us, we trust in Him. We trust in Him and we believe in Him. We'll not worship somebody else, no matter what. So you have to ask yourself, how would you have reacted to that? How would you have reacted to that? Would you have given in and bowed down to his idol to save yourself? Better to save your soul than to save your flesh, what it comes down to. But it's a personal choice. Personal choice. So we'll leave there the first 3 chapters and pick up chapter 4 of Daniel next time. So hope you're able to get something from that. And again, feel free to read these along with me, read them after I read them, and maybe you will get something out of them that I didn't get out of them, or nobody else got out of it, but you specifically were supposed to get something out of it. So that's prophetic. The interpretation of his dream, speaking of him, and another empire after that, another empire after that. After Babylon, you had Persia, and you had Rome. You had many empires after that. But one would become about, that's the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, earthly nation, empire. There's nobody today. The world is divided. So the kingdom of mankind is divided. So that's that divided kingdom. And the kingdom that's yet to come, return of Eden, uh, be the one that exists forever, along in the physical world, and then kingdom of heaven exists forever in the spiritual. So it's prophesying about Jesus as well, his arrival, his coming. So stay safe, help those who need help as you can, and talk to God, have that relationship with God. Peace of Christ. God bless.